I wish it was gargoyle geckos with that deep red. Beautiful.
Hmm.
I wish I could just pluck that and put it on some crested geckos.
Hey, welcome back to the GeckoCove Connection. My name's Bobby, and in today's episode, I have the pleasure of introducing Sam from Sostic Reptiles. You've probably seen him on YouTube doing his hand modeling videos, walking geckos from hand to hand. It's very mesmerizing, but you typically don't get to see his face. So in today's interview, you'll actually get to see who Sam is while also learning from him about crested geckos, his experience with gargoyle geckos, and how he shares a ton of fantastic information about these geckos on YouTube. So if that sounds interesting to you, then you're in the right place. Welcome to Gecko Cove. Welcome, everybody. I am so excited today to have Sam from Sostic Geckos with me. I've been chatting back and forth with Sam about just some ideas of YouTube channels and geckos just for a little bit, not too long, but Sam's been an amazing guy answering some questions and giving me some ideas. And I just threw an idea out there to have him on the show, and he's been gracious to say yes. So welcome, Sam. Thank you so much for coming on. I can't believe you said yes.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it. Thank you for asking me.
Yeah. Well, I'll throw you a real easy softball question to start out, the one that everybody gets asked. What got you into reptiles? What was your journey like? Did you start as a little kid? Did you not kind of find them till you were older? What was that story like?
No, for sure. I really started out with fish, actually, which I think is a common leadway into reptiles. So I was
Absolutely.
obsessed with goldfish for a long time. And so that kind of transitioned into other fish. And then maybe I got like some anoles. And then that's how I really got into reptiles down the road.
Okay, well, I don't know if many people know this, but I actually was a huge fish guy for a while, so I might have to pick your brain about that before we jump back into
Really?
reptiles. Yeah, I actually I kept fish. When I first met my wife about 8 years ago, that was one thing I had. I had a fish tank, and I kind of blew up that hobby first. I probably should have gone into geckos at that time because I'd be a lot farther along. But
Yeah.
I ended up with I did some Ranchu goldfish. I really liked those and some of the Arandas. And that led me into flower horns, which I got to really,
Cool.
I got to put a picture up right here of this. They called it a 9.9 King Comfa. The thing was massive. It was a big water puppy dog in a 120 gallon tank. Um,
Dang.
but yeah, I've had everything from tiger barbs to mollies, angelfish, and right now I just started dipping my toe into. I don't have any freshwater tanks now, but I do have one saltwater 20-gallon tank that
Oh,
I'm
nice.
playing around with. So I've got, for my kids, I've got a little Nemo fish.
Cool. That's
Yeah.
awesome.
So you got into the goldfish though.
Yeah, I loved goldfish and koi. And so I actually convinced my parents to build a pond in our backyard at the
Oh,
time.
that's
It was only
awesome.
a little, like maybe 200 gallon. So I couldn't have real big goldfish in there. But I loved goldfish and just any freshwater fish in general, to be honest. So
Yeah.
that's really what segued me into geckos and reptiles.
Very cool. Well, I know when I kind of was thinking about getting a reptile, the one I first got was a bearded dragon because I'm like, I love these fish, but you can't take a fish out of the water, right? You
Right.
can't hold it. Was that kind of
Hmm.
your mentality too?
Yeah, a little bit. And, over time, you just kind of want something you can at least hold would be nice.
Hmm.
And so, yeah. And just kind of you're in the fish store maybe and you see the reptiles near them. You're like, oh, what's that? That looks kind of cool. And then you're like, can I
Yep.
get that? And so it started definitely young too.
They're all in a tank. It's the same thing, right?
Yeah, that's right.
So when did that transition into geckos for you or other reptiles? Where'd you start?
So I kind of started with anoles, pretty easy to keep. That was maybe when I was like 10 years old or so.
Hmm.
Um, they don't live, I don't think they live very long. Mine, I only had
No.
a couple years and they were kind of hard to take care of. And then after that, I got into leopard geckos and I had quite a few of those. Maybe when I was 13, 14-ish, I had six
Nice.
or seven. And then the crested geckos really started in 2017 for me. So
Oh, okay. Very
It's
cool.
been a couple years now, but
Very nice. Okay, it's funny. 2017. The older you get, like time just sort of like speeds up, and so
yeah,
2017 seems like yesterday to me, right? But
yeah,
it's been a hot minute, and
yeah.
so yeah, right. Um, but so you started with your first crested gecko. What did that crested gecko look like? What
It
kind
was
did you
just
get?
a basic flame from Pangea. Very cool, kind of like dark sides with a nice orange top.
Very
Really
nice.
pretty gecko. Very liked it. Really liked it.
So you started off with some quality going to Pangea.
Oh
Nicely done.
yeah, high end stuff. But the back in that time, they used to sell ones that were like $50, $60 individually
hmm
pictured too. So that was
Oh, okay.
nice.
Very
It
nice.
was
Do you remember how much that gecko cost, if you don't mind me asking?
yes. With shipping, it was $90. So it was like probably a $50 gecko. But
That's awesome. Yeah, no, I mean, heck, what is it? Petco's $60 now
yeah, at
for a
least
crested
so.
gecko. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, I actually worked at a Petco and a PetSmart after college while I was in grad school. I was a professional dog trainer. And
nice.
so just extra hours, I'd get there and take my dog. And yeah, that's where I first saw crested geckos, but they were not a nice flame. It was the buckskin, you
Yeah,
know, they really weren't handled. So they were super jumpy. So that was my first like small introduction back in the day. But you had a way better introduction, so I think that's why you started a little bit before me.
yeah.
Um, did you start going to like any local shows after that? How did you get addicted? So what was that story like?
Well,
How did it
I guess it
snowball?
kind of all started really with um, there was a YouTube show back in the day called Snake Bites TV.
Yeah.
So this was Brian Barczyk's show, and at the time they just did like kind of funny skits and stuff. And I always knew I wanted to breed something, and so I thought it was going to be snakes, actually, ball pythons. But
Interesting.
I had one of those. It was okay. It was cool. I didn't like feeding it the mice as much, but
Hmm.
once I discovered crested geckos, that's kind of really where it took off. And so I didn't really go to any shows in my area. Still to this day, I've only been to maybe two or three. We don't in
Okay.
Wisconsin. There's no real big ones. There's one that kind of travels the area locally, but other than that, the biggest show that's close to me is Tinley, which I'd like to get to sometime.
Nice. Yeah, I'm definitely a little closer than you are to Tinley. You could probably come see me on the way there.
Yeah,
But do you guys have like what the Show Me Reptile show? I think
yeah, that
in
one's a little bit
Wisconsin.
south of me. I think down by the
Yeah.
Milwaukee area.
Yeah, yeah, closer to me too. So which is nice. I'm right in between Chicago and Milwaukee, so I'm
Oh,
actually a
nice.
cheesehead, by the way. I don't know if you're a big
Really?
football guy. Yeah, I grew up. So don't unsubscribe. I'm sorry if I pissed off all the Bear fans. My wife's a Bear fan, but
Yeah,
yeah, I'm definitely a cheesehead. But that's another podcast, so we'll talk about that later.
nice.
But yeah, I'm definitely a Wisconsin boy trapped in Illinois, for
Yeah.
sure. Uh, so okay, you haven't been to a ton of shows. You were thinking about breeding because you were looking at Snake Bites TV. I mean, I remember watching that.
Yeah.
He's such an OG, and I hope he gets better, and
Yeah.
he's doing a great job fighting the fight, and I wish him the very best. So, Brian, if you're watching, we're praying for you, man. But with that, you realized ball pythons weren't your thing. When did you buy your second one? How long did it take you for the bug to kind of set in?
Well, I would say that was so I got my first one, I think in September of 2017. And I want to say I got my second and third probably in November of 2017 as well. So not
Yeah, you
very
didn't
long
take long.
at all. No. Well, I had, such a wide range of animals, like
Hmm.
leopard geckos and snakes, and you could just kind of tell. It was like, this is the animal I'm going to work with. These are great. I love them. Easy to
Yeah,
care for. So I kind of knew.
very cool. Yeah, I mean, we all know at this point they're relatively easy to breed. So, the reinforcement after you put some together, it definitely is a nice little high that you can get
For sure.
to say, yep, this is the way to go. So then did you start downsizing your other animals, or do you still have any of those pets, or did you kind of keep them forever?
Yeah, so during that time, I kind of started to realize crested geckos were going to be what I did. So I believe I still had my ball python, and I had Kenyan sand boas too, which
Oh,
were pretty
cool. Those
cool.
are nice. Yeah.
Um, and then I think I had, by that time, I had gotten rid of all my leopard geckos. But yeah, I started kind of decreasing those and kind of selling them off here and there and getting more crested geckos as a result. So,
Yeah. Yeah, I definitely sold off. I had just before I got into gargoyles, I had just gotten a trio of collared lizards because I thought they'd be a cool alternative to bearded dragons.
sure.
If you work with them, they're just as hand tamed. They're smaller. They don't brumate nearly as much. And so I'm like, oh, these are awesome. And I still love them. I probably still want to get them one day. But my thing is I'm like, I got to go all in on these because these guys aren't cheap, you know?
Yeah.
Especially when I came into the market in 2020, I didn't
Oh, man.
realize that there were days where there was $50 for a gecko.
Yeah. Those days were long gone by then.
Yeah, definitely long gone. So, and I wanted to start with some quality stuff. So you do what you have to do. I so okay, you started getting into breeding them. You started acquiring new geckos. When did you find your first? Because you're kind of known for your red phantoms. I don't even know when red phantoms came on the scene, but when did you start acquiring those? Was that later on in your career?
Actually, the second gecko I bought was a red phantom. It
Oh,
was a
nice.
female.
Okay.
They'd been out for long before me, probably since the beginning. But yeah, the second one I got was a red phantom, and so I kind of always had her. And then that following year, 2018, is when I started getting more and working with them. So it's pretty
Awesome.
much been since the beginning. It wasn't my first pair, but it would be like my second and third. So
Yeah, close enough.
yeah,
Yeah, and you've definitely been refining those. They look amazing from what I see.
thank you.
Um, so I keep referring to what I'm seeing, right? Obviously, you're on YouTube. Your people are watching this on YouTube, but like you've been on way longer than I've ever considered it. I've been watching you for years, and
Yeah,
just eating up your content like crazy. So you're welcome.
thank you.
Yeah, no problem. um, but no, what made you think about starting a YouTube channel? I mean, I always binge this stuff. I've been binging this and dog training videos and things here and there. I go down the rabbit hole of different hobbies, fish, but
Yeah.
I never had the guts to do it until now. What inspired you and moved you to actually start your channel?
Well, this might not be a well-known fact. I've mentioned it a couple times, but I actually had a YouTube channel that was bigger prior to Sostic, where
Really?
I made gaming videos on that. So
Oh,
um,
cool.
this actually next year, 2024, will be 10 years of me consistently making YouTube videos.
That's
So
amazing.
thank you.
Wow, I had no idea. All right, so are you still making gaming videos and Gecko videos, or have you just transitioned?
Yeah, so I started the gaming videos in 2014 when I
Mm-hmm.
was 13, and I
Oh,
stopped when I
nice.
was 17 in 2017. And then I just like left that channel, just completely quit pretty much, and
Mm-hmm.
started doing gecko videos, no following, nothing, just it's what I wanted to do. So
That's awesome. I mean, and let's be honest here, you've become the most famous hand model in all of the gecko world. I mean,
right.
you're almost as famous as PJ Pruitt from Zoolander.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's right. Yeah. Yeah. Nice. Yeah.
So you got those puppies insured?
Oh yeah. Nice and soft, buttered up, ready to go.
There you go. Got to get a manicure before every video. I,
Oh
I
yeah.
joke,
Trimming
but
them.
I honestly, you were actually the biggest inspiration for me to just suck it up and make my first video and post it, because I'm like, okay, I'm not camera shy per se. I'm more of an extrovert, but the first time you put it out on YouTube, there's a difference between a small group, even a large group in person, and having something permanently out there, right? And so I'm like, you know what? I'm just going to do it. Let's do a hand video, right? Like
Nice.
Sam, and I'm going to go, and I just had, I've got this little box behind me, and there's a cutout up top. I just put my cell phone no audio equipment, no lighting equipment other than the box. And I just kind of showed my geckos. And I don't think I did nearly as good of a job as you, but you were the inspiration, my friend. So
Thank
thank
you.
you for
Well, I'm
that.
happy to hear that. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
amazing.
So we can go back and watch those and laugh at me. But
Yeah,
the geckos look nice, so at least that works.
they sure do. And you get
Very
close
cool.
ups.
Yeah. So okay, what made you then just jump straight into the gecko? Like leave the video games and go straight into the geckos?
Well, I guess it was two things really.
Mm-hmm.
At that time, YouTube AdSense wasn't paying as well. I know that's kind of a touchy subject, but
Yeah.
that channel was more popular. I had about 60,000 subs on that before I left, but
Okay.
I was just I'd been doing that for a couple of years, posting a lot more videos than I do with geckos, and I just got so tired of making gaming videos,
Mm-hmm.
and I just couldn't do it anymore. And it, I don't know. It was nice because it was
You
kind of like
burn
a high
out.
school, yeah, basically, and it was kind of like my
Yeah.
high school job in a way.
Okay.
But I really just wanted to make gecko content because I liked geckos, and I liked, I guess, kind of educating, but also just documenting what I was going to do with them.
Yeah.
And so that kind of gave me the inspiration from it. And I had seen some other channels that were kind of doing stuff similar, but maybe not quite what I would want to see. So I was like,
Mm-hmm.
I could probably do that if I wanted to.
That's awesome. Yeah, you're doing a great job. Um, Honestly, I'm impressed. How long? So you've been doing this channel for how many years exactly? I'm bad at math.
Okay, so this channel would be for 6 years this year,
Okay.
2017 to 2023. Yeah.
That's awesome. So yeah, you're well past your second year of school again. You got it. Yeah, I see everything in 4 years because I work in a high school.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
But you've been doing this for 6 years. Have you always consistently put out what do you put out? One video a week, two videos a week?
I'm only doing actually 2 videos a month, one every other week.
Oh, okay.
So
Very
that's
cool.
actually, I wouldn't recommend doing that.
No, okay. What would you recommend for someone just starting out? How many
I
videos
would
a
say
week if
for
you really
like,
wanted to go?
I would say for like our kind of type of content, I would probably
Yeah,
do at least one a week or one every like 5 or 6 days if you're trying to
sure.
get like the best growth. But two a month is really not that many. But
Yeah. Well, it's enough to build a collection of them after 6 years for sure.
yeah, that's true. It really
Um,
compounds.
it does. They add up quickly. But it's a lot of work. I mean, a lot of work goes into these videos. Where do you get your ideas and inspiration, especially after 6 years? I mean, I looked back at your catalog, and a lot of your first few videos were things that I had originally thought of. Like the basic care of a crested gecko and a basic enclosure setup. So after you get past that initial like how-to video, how do you come up with all these creative ideas? Because you do have some creative ideas, my friend.
I think that, well, thank you first. But
Yeah,
also, I think there's a couple, I have a running list of things that I maybe hear like on another show, like something they might have just quickly mentioned. And I'm like, oh, that'd make an interesting video. So I have that running list. And then also, you can kind of, if you've been doing it for a while, I don't want to say recycle, but you can kind of recycle some of your old
yeah,
stuff because not everybody who is subscribed to me now probably saw all my old videos. And if they're relevant, maybe I learned something in the time that it's been, like, say, 4 years old videos. I mean, I've definitely learned stuff on a lot of that since then. So it's a
sure.
good, I can repeat. But yeah, I would say those are the main two. Just hearing things that's going on and kind of thinking about other things that I would like to see as well.
Yeah, I think that's what's nice about this sort of content is that I can tell that when you're really in the hobby like you are, right? You're not just making gecko content, you're taking care of these geckos, you're working with them every day. you know this is stuff that you probably want to know, that you're just
Yeah,
sharing with us. And that's what I love about this community. It's not I'm going to review this tech item because I just want to make some extra money. It's
right,
I'm doing this because I want to share my knowledge. And hey, if YouTube throws me a few bones, that's great, but most of us are so small that it's not as much.
right.
um, Plus it costs money to make some of these videos, just the time it takes. Like how long does it typically take you to shoot a video, let alone edit it?
Well, typically the longest part is me trying to talk coherently for amount of time. I tend to stutter, and it's like, okay, restart, restart, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but I do have an archive built up of gecko footage now, so some of it
Nice.
might be from multiple videos if people haven't noticed. But
Oh, okay.
I mean, I have like,
That's a
oh man,
trick.
100 gecko videos, so I don't
Yeah.
always shoot new hand modeling videos every time I'm recording.
All right, my world has just crashed right there. Okay.
Yeah.
I'm gonna now try to look for patterns in your videos.
Uh-oh.
That's
Now I released it.
crazy.
Yep.
You released it here. Okay. So everybody, let's find which video. No, I'm kidding. No, that's smart though. I mean, because a lot of your content that I've seen, the geckos are fun to watch. I mean, they're kind of mesmerizing. It's
Yeah.
kind of like just watching, water move and kind of things. But we're all interested in geckos, so we're watching the geckos. But
Right.
your magic is what you're saying, and going back to what you're saying, how you have to record things multiple times. The very first video intro I did, I mean, I'm talking a 30-second intro, right? Oh man, I feel bad for my wife. She's like, you said that so many times, like 50 times. She goes, just walk away just
Yeah.
before, and do it again later on. And my 4-year-old was hilarious. He literally the next day gets into my chair that I'm sitting in right now, looks at my computer and goes, welcome to GeckoCove. And I'm like, oh man, did I say it that many times that my 4-year-old picked up on it?
Yeah. That's
So,
funny. Perfect
you know,
example.
you don't have to be perfect doing this, right? You just kind of
Right.
get your way through it, and thank God for editing.
Whew.
So,
You're right.
very cool. Okay, you're coming up with all these different ideas. We talked earlier about me jumping into this game a little bit. Now I'm doing the podcast with you and other breeders and content creators, and with that, that's one side of it. But I'm really focusing in on the gargoyle geckos. And one thing, when we first started talking, I asked you advice because you specifically target crested geckos. You really don't go very far off. I think you had 2 gargoyle gecko videos, if I'm not mistaken,
Yep,
which I probably
probably.
watched a few times each. But I wanted to see how they grew.
Yeah.
But with that, do you feel like there's a space for people like me who are trying to jump into all the geckos that kind of get ignored, the gargoyles, the chewies? There's some lychee people, but nobody specifically about lychees. Where do you see the YouTube space, given that you've had now 2 successful channels?
Thank you. Yeah, I think that the opportunity for yourself and other people who wanted to make specific content for specific animals or reptiles have a high likelihood of being successful if they stick with it. Because there, like you said, there is not really anybody in the space who's doing very specific content for those animals.
Mm-hmm.
And so anyone who comes into that area, I think, has a high likelihood to succeed.
Well, I hope so. I hope you're right. I'll take your prediction on the stock market there.
Yeah,
Run with it.
I think it's
So,
good.
and I'm looking at, I've only been really, really trying for probably about 2.5 months with this, right? One thing I'm wondering, as someone starting out, when did you start seeing the growth? Right now I've got close to 300 subscribers, and every video I get, 10 here. When I first started out, it was like 100 right away, and then it's been slow to gain to 300. And I don't mind the steady growth. I love it. I think I'm getting some really quality viewers, some great feedback and comments. But when did you see that your channels kind of just took it from the slow grow to the jump? Because I always hear about that. I hear that,
Yeah.
you don't know when it's going to happen, but like on average, when do you think, when can I expect that?
Well, I would say it's hard to predict a specific time that it might happen.
Right.
But I think that if you're consistent in what you make, what's actually happened to me both times now on both of my channels is that there's just that one video for whatever reason that does a lot better than the rest and gets a lot of views. And that's usually
Mm-hmm.
where you'll see your first like big explosion in subscribers. And then you can see, okay, people really liked this specific thing, whatever it was. And then so you try and take that and do it again and again and again. And then hopefully those videos continually bump you up in time. But it's just, it can take time. I mean, I got lucky on my Sostic channel that it happened earlier on, but
it did. Awesome. Now, do you remember the video that did that for you?
Yes.
I know what your most popular video is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it's the feeding one right now.
It's the feeding one. Yeah. I think it's like, what, 80,000 views?
Yes. And actually, I would say there's 3 videos that really blew me up, and I have them all privated. They weren't, I guess, videos I was proud of or good, that I thought were good. And so looking back on them, it was like, nah, these got to go, which is a good...
it's a good thing that you're evolving.
Yeah. And that's something that you'll probably encounter too over time, is you'll look back at something you made and you'll be like, probably shouldn't have posted this, or maybe I should have said it a different way, or, did something differently. And that's one of the struggles I have with YouTube videos. It's just like, could you have made it better, said it differently, done things differently?
Yep. And unlike real life, you can sort of take it back with a YouTube video, right?
Yeah.
So
that's nice.
So yeah. Well, I mean, not many people know this. Probably the first 10 subscribers to my channel know that my channel was not about geckos initially. I don't know if you know this.
Oh, I didn't know this.
Yeah. So this channel was actually created right before COVID started. I actually did a ketogenic cooking channel. I had 3 episodes up, and
really?
Yeah, yep. And so I have those still on this channel. I just privated them because they have nothing to do with geckos. But I still have them, and I look back and I go, I didn't do horrible, but the one thing that I did want to take off was my son, because I had him in every video, and he was only like a year old, and I'm like, yeah, we'll keep him private now. But so I'll probably look back at my hand modeling videos and go, what was I doing? But
yep.
What are you gonna
sometimes
do? Yeah, that's okay. Cool. Oh, that's awesome. What do you think about, okay, so you think that there's a chance for people with other niches. What about right now the crested gecko market, both in the market, just selling and breeding them? You hear a lot of people say the word saturated. I don't know how you feel about that. But the YouTube content as well, I could say saturated a little bit as well. Do you think that anybody coming into YouTube, and you could also talk about the market too in a little bit, but do you think that crested geckos are a good bet for someone who's starting from zero?
I actually think that it could be, yes, because I came from, before I had the Gecko channel and I did my gaming, that was highly competitive. I mean, I don't know if you're into any games. I'm not so much anymore, but I mean, there's thousands, hundreds of thousands of people making gaming videos every day. So I was like, that's a super competitive space. But when I think about gecko videos, or crested gecko specifically, there's probably, at least that I know of, maybe like 10 kind of channels that are really into it. I'm sure there's smaller ones that I don't see, but that's nothing. I mean,
it's not a huge amount. You're right.
The market for geckos, though, is also much smaller, or gecko content, I should say, compared to video games. But I think it's possible. I think it is possible for crested geckos, highly possible for the other morphs or other reptiles that we talked about. Yep. For sure. As far as the crested gecko market saturation, that's a good topic. Something I've been kind of talking about a little bit, and it's been more on my mind lately. I've heard a lot about it lately, and I think there is truth to that. It's something I've been I kind of like numbers and stuff. I don't know if you've seen any of the pricing videos I've done and stuff, but
like I said, it's one of the fun things about doing this right now. And so I don't know if you get this. I kind of geek out. You're like a mini celebrity to me. And so I've seen so many of your videos that it's like talking to people that don't seem real. And then you are real. So
you're too nice.
So I've seen it.
Okay. Well, this is something I kind of saw coming. So I've been tracking actually how many have been for sale on Morph Market at any given
Yeah.
time. And so I started back in 2021 tracking this. And there's actually more than 3 times the amount for sale in just 2 years now than there was
Wow.
2 years ago. There was about 1,500 at any given time back in like 2021, and now there's over 5,000. So that's
It's more
a tough,
saturated, yeah.
yeah, for
It's
sure. You get,
But people are also leaving the hobby right now, because people just can't either afford it. I think we're getting both a trickle in and a trickle out, right?
for
It's
sure.
never just one or the other. But I think like you say, anytime you have supply and demand, when you have that much more supply, well,
Yeah.
do we have that demand? You tell me. What are you seeing?
I would say that it will get better for sure.
Oh
I
yeah,
think it'll, it was super high and now it feels super low, but it will kind of regulate somewhere in the middle. What that looks like is hard to say, especially because the amount of geckos available now is just so much more than it was that I'd be lying if I said I knew what was going to happen. But I think demand
yeah.
is still, it's all right. It's okay. Just,
And
it's,
I think it's just okay right now. But I think because we're at a low, right?
yeah,
And whether I just listen to other podcasts or YouTube channels or just talk to other people that I know have geckos, everybody keeps talking about these waves up and down. You're going to get that, right? And it's almost a 3-year cycle where you get people because of how long it takes to get breeders up and going. And then, do they really want to do this once you get X amount of babies? And I mean, just to put the enclosures together costs money. People don't realize that. I don't care if it's
right.
a 6-quart tub. Um, but with that, with that cycle, where's that going to land? Plus, the morphs coming into this make a big difference. It's not like you're dealing with the same geckos that we
Right.
had 3-4 years ago. Now you've got, especially with crested geckos, you're getting all these new things coming out: the soft scales, the pixels, the obviously exanthics and stuff like that. So I don't know. Like you said, your guess is as good as mine, but it's kind of a fun ride as long as you're in it like the stock market, where you're like, okay, I'm in for the long run,
Yeah,
not for a quick buck. It can only go up from here. That's a good
that's
thing.
good. Right. Yeah.
So
And I definitely think too that, like you just said, people who are in it for the long run are going to be fine. But if you were in it to make a quick buck, you're probably really hurting, depending on what you sold or didn't sell last year. And actually, I don't want to say too much because that's my next video coming out. But like some of those morphs you
oh,
were
cool.
mentioning, really, 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 really came down. I don't know
Yes,
if you're like super up to
I've been
crested gecko
watching.
pricing, but
Yep.
yeah, so a lot of them are like 80% just from where they were last year, which is sad at one point, but also it was bound to happen. So
It was bound to I mean, we've been talking. I mean, you've been talking about this for years. I've been mentioning this to people I talk to, privately. You saw it happening. I mean, we're all seeing, the it's not just the gecko industry. This is just if you have to buy gas or groceries,
yeah,
what's going on right now.
everything.
Everything, and everything's got a price hike. I remember when Pangea did their little price hike. People were like, "Oh, really? We got to pay more for it?" Yeah, you didn't see that coming,
Right.
right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, but again, like we said, we do it because we love these animals. It's not a quick buck. What I most people I talk to, it really starts with, can I make this at least net neutral, right, with my revenue? Can they pay for themselves? Unlike the fish hobby, which never pays for
Yeah.
itself,
That's losing.
unless you're like, yeah, maybe some of those coral guys get it, right, but you're not going
Yeah.
to make that money with mollies. Um, yeah, it's just it's you got to have the right mindset, and I think that the people who are in it for the long haul are going to be here for a long time. You see some of the old guys in the industry; they've seen a lot of people come and go, and they're the
Oh,
ones
yeah.
just still having fun. And if you make an extra buck, great. The more power to you. But
Right.
it's not going to be as consistent as I think people want it to be. So, but yeah, we'll see where it goes, and I can't wait to see your video on it. So everybody
Thank
go
you.
watch it.
That's
Yeah.
right.
So going back to gargoyles, because this is a, as much as I love talking about crested geckos, I do need to kind of focus on that being a gargoyle gecko channel. You did two geckos, gargoyle gecko videos. I really liked it. Was it the PetSmart one was your first one?
Yep.
What was your?
That was my first one.
Yep. And then you did kind of like because he wasn't growing or she wasn't growing very fast, and then you showed another year progression. How is that gecko? Do you still have it?
So that gecko actually got very big, very nice, and I liked her a lot, but I didn't have any gargoyles. Obviously, I do a lot of crested stuff, and so
yeah,
she's cool, and she was actually very nice for being a Petco animal. So she's off at a good friend's. I don't have her anymore, but it's possible I might get some of her babies back, so I'm looking forward to that. That was kind of a special gecko to me, so.
Very nice. Yeah, I mean, yeah, I'm sad you don't have any right now. We gotta fix that one way or another. Whether you get the babies or I hook you up with one, we got to get you back in the gargoyle game. I'm the same way. I had a few crested geckos. I actually had a really, really nice tricolor from Boomer Geckos, pretty local to me. She's a fantastic friend of mine, and she also produced a lily white baby. So I got two geckos from her, and as much as I loved them, I wanted to focus on these guys, right?
Yeah.
And so, I ended up, selling them when the price was right back then. I'm kind of glad looking at the market that I sold them back then. I cashed out at the right time of those lily whites. Holy cow!
Oh yeah,
it was like hitting the beanie. It was like hitting the Beanie Babies in the late '90s. Thank God I got rid of that Princess Diane bear.
Yeah.
Anyway, but yeah. So and I picked up another great gargoyle that I'm growing out right now. So everything worked out for the best. But eventually, I want to get back in the gecko game or the crested gecko game. Honestly, the biggest reason why I'm actually interested in probably looking to buy in the next year or so, once I start getting some liquid cash, is just the way that I feel with first year gargoyle gecko breeding. One reason I talk about with a lot of breeders for gargoyles, they don't produce as consistently, they don't produce as much, and so when it's your only gecko that you're trying to pair up, and you're like, all right, 60 days since the last time you laid eggs, you're due. Okay, you're 30 days late and they're duds. Dang it. It's like that just happened to me. And I only have 3 breeders right now. Well, technically 4. One just laid 1 egg. And it's one of those things that I'm like, it's kind of a shot to my self-esteem. So I need that boost. I need that crested gecko boost. Because am I wrong? Are they more consistent?
First year breeders can be tough, I'm sure, with anything.
Always.
But once you get them in a couple of years, they're pretty solid if they're healthy females. I don't know. I'm not too familiar with Gargs. I've no basic care, but how many eggs would you say on average you get from a?
Well, again, this is just my very first year breeding, so my case study of 1 isn't very much. But I've got 6 babies hatched, and I've got another 8 babies in the incubator, and that's all come from, again, other than 1 egg, all come from 3 females that are all virgins. So they're all brand new babies, or all new breeding females this year. My males were all brand new, so that's probably why my production was low. I would say what I'm hearing is average is about every 60 days you'll get you'll get your 2 eggs. Is pretty consistent for second, third year females.
Nice.
For breeding. They're older than 2 or 3 years, obviously. But yeah, so I don't think it's nearly the 8 to 10, right, that you can get from a crested gecko, maybe more.
Yeah, I mean, I've had some. If I'm thinking about first year females specifically, it seems real hit or miss. I have some just like yours that maybe give me 1 good egg, give me no good eggs, but then I'll have I had one that actually I think did maybe 14 its first year. It's like, whoa, okay, you gotta chill out.
You gotta slow down.
Yeah, that's a lot.
Here's some calcium, kid.
Yeah. I was surprised by that. Honestly, they're usually not that good. But yeah, 10, 8, 10.
So what are your biggest frustrations with crested geckos? Like what's the, we always talk about the upside of keeping and breeding them, but like if you could change one thing, or you just, one thing that's kind of, some people don't talk about a lot, what's something that kind of you would like to see different or just frustrates you?
That's a good question.
It's what I do is I ask questions.
Yeah, that's a tough one. Honestly,
Yeah, they're nearly a perfect pet.
I hate to say it, but I think they literally, for me, they're perfect. Since I've just had so many different things, I think the new cow geckos in general are superior to a lot of animals. It's really hard for me to even pick anything out that would be a frustration. I could say with the hobby in general, maybe not the geckos themselves.
Sure, let's go with that one.
But I guess it would just be sometimes I see lots of, it's in any hobby though, drama.
Yeah.
I guess that'd be my cop-out answer. Just like in groups and stuff. And
yeah, you hear about that a lot. I hear about it a lot more, and I think it's the bigger the hobby gets, the more I don't want to say divisive, but kind of fragmented. Just like back in high school, how people had cliques. I feel like people kind of get into cliques, and especially if there's an ideology where you have to say this kind of word that way, or, you have to keep them in this kind of enclosure. I mean, how many videos have you had about the tubs behind you? People's comments are, you're either for the those kind of enclosures or totally against them. There's no middle ground. So,
yeah. And actually, that's a good thing to say if you're interested in creating content, you or anyone else watching, is that, when you make so many videos, people will form an opinion about you without ever talking to you. Mm-hmm. Like, it's just bound to happen. And especially I try to avoid super controversial things if I know they're going to be
smart,
bad. Especially now that I've gotten older, it's sometimes hard because I think they'd make good video topics, but
sure,
it's also probably not the best thing to do. So
it's very smart of you. Yes, you've definitely matured in that way, right? Because those are the easy clicks, right? To say something off color or super controversial. But you alienate anywhere from 40 to 60% of your population that's watching.
For sure.
And then are they going to come back to you, or are they just going to go, this guy's a jerk? I personally thought you were a really nice guy without ever meeting you, just based on your videos. Good. And now I think you're an absolute jerk. No.
Well, that means I was doing a good job at first, at least. So.
Yeah. You see, you never meet your heroes, man. Never meet your heroes.
That's what they say.
But no, I mean, it's a smart move. I've seen other YouTubers start to go down that route of, calling other people out or, nitpicking certain things. And there's a fun, tactful way of doing it. Mm-hmm. But then there's also the destructive way. And I think that's great advice not to go down that route. Be the bigger person.
Yeah. Well, and I kind of, I'm a little bit younger, let's say. So sure. When I started this, I was still in high school, and maybe I didn't
about 45 now.
Yeah.
Okay,
that's right.
Yeah,
but
our beards give it away.
Yeah, that's right. Maybe I didn't understand that as well, so I made like a video complaining about an order I had, whether it was reasonable or not. I should not make videos like that, and so that's a good learning lesson too. If you're ever starting a YouTube channel, or just avoiding drama in general, I think is good policy, especially, if you have the ability to make videos on it. I think that compounds it probably and makes it worse. So,
oh yeah. I mean, and let's be honest here. This is not a big community, dude. Like no. It may seem that way every once in a while, but the amount, okay. So I live close to Tinley. Most people that I watch on YouTube show up at Tinley,
Yeah.
And so it's one of those things. I'm walking around and, if I said something nasty about, let's say, David from Tiki's Geckos. I don't know him at all, right? He seems like a super nice guy. He's super knowledgeable. I love some of his geckos, but he could look at me and go, and then I could ruin a relationship where maybe we need something from each other, or, we could learn something from each other. And you don't want to burn those bridges before you even, have a chance to build them, let alone
100%,
maintain them. Yeah, I'm with you. That's just a good life lesson.
I agree. Yeah. So many
Have you ever
things
thought about going into counseling?
Maybe I should be.
There you go. You got a soothing, deep voice for it,
Yeah.
That would, you could calm some people down for sure. Very cool.
Nice.
So, okay, that actually leads me to another good question is, you hear a lot of people talk about, well, man, I'd love to do this full time, whether that be breeding or whether that be being YouTuber. So again, I work with a lot of young adults, right? High school kids. And you'd be surprised how many people go, I want to be a YouTuber. I want to be an influencer, right? How realistic do you, since you've been doing this for a while, do you see that? Do you do this full time? Whether it be one of the two things, what advice would you give my kids if they were listening to this video?
I would say anything's possible. Obviously, I've loved to make videos, and I know it's definitely possible, depending on what you do. And I would say that it's possible if I continued with my gaming, even though I would have hated it. I could have been doing that full time. So, Gecko channel though, tough. That'd be hard. Yeah. And breeding geckos.
The AdSense isn't as good with geckos as it is for gaming.
It's actually better, but the
oh really?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, like 8 times better. But the
okay, cool.
The community is smaller.
So it's much smaller, yeah.
Yeah, and it's just nice. I never created the Gecko channel to make money. I just wanted to show what I was doing. I thought it'd be cool. And then it kind of turned into educational stuff over time, which is a great thing too. If you're not, I feel like there's 2 types of content you can make, is like funny or educational. But if you have no experience, it's hard to educate. So you can just document what you've done then, which is kind of what I did in the beginning. But the Gecko channel pays for my crickets every month, and that's about it. So that's nice.
Yeah.
But
it helps. Yeah. Any little bit, I told my wife, that's the one thing I kind of noticed with people who make money with geckos, whether it be, again, just breeding or YouTube, is that most of us just reinvest it back into our animals. Like I want to, as soon as I make some money, and I won't make it on YouTube, I'm going to make it selling these babies, is I just want to buy bigger, nicer PVC enclosures. Like that's my goal. And I want to give these geckos the best life possible. And that's what I see as a trend with a lot of the people in the hobby, which I think is a great thing.
I agree.
How many people can, afford, I mean, these PVC enclosures, or even the enclosures you have behind you that are really nice. I mean, it ain't cheap.
Yeah. Yep. Everything's expensive.
Not everybody has, a few grand, let alone 10 grand to shove into that kind of stuff. So
for sure.
If these geckos can help us just make their life a little bit easier, why not?
Yeah.
Very cool. Well, kind of going into back about the YouTube journey, did you ever, you said you got kind of burnt out with your first channel. Have you ever gotten to the point where you're thinking, all right, I'm burning out here. Maybe I should just, do one last video. You did tease me on April Fool's, saying it's your last video. So thank you for that. That was great clickbait.
Nice. That was good, wasn't it?
It was fantastic. I was like, what? No way. Because you're no offense. Yours is not, like you said, there's comedian channels, educational, There's already another guy around your area, Charlie Barron, who's the comedian, right?
Oh, yeah. You know
what I'm talking about? Great. Yeah. So I'm actually going to go see him this weekend live,
awesome.
Which is fun.
That's cool.
Yeah. But, so I didn't expect that. So way to go and get me on that But
Nice.
can you tell me, did you ever find where you maybe were actually thinking about it, and what kept you going with this content?
I don't know if I've ever came that close. I would say I've come closer to running out of content to make, which is
Fair enough.
like you mentioned kind of earlier in the podcast. It's difficult over time to make consistent content about lizards. I mean, things change, but not a whole lot. Um,
Yep.
if I
How
ever
I
thought
clean
about
poop
it,
today.
yeah, yeah.
Right.
I don't know if I've ever came that close, to be honest with you. I enjoy making
That's a
videos,
good thing.
and I've been making them for so long, and it was always my dream to continue to film, and I've been doing it for 9 years this year, going on 10. Um, I would say if it's a chore to you and you dislike making them, it's going to be painful for you to ever create a long-term channel if you don't enjoy it.
Mm-hmm. Yep. I think that's true with anything that we really want to do and set our mind to is, you know, you have to look at it as you have to find some enjoyment, right? If you hate running, don't go and try to run a marathon. You're
Right.
you're not gonna do it if you hate it.
Yeah,
You know, but if you love lifting weights or playing with geckos, you might get swole and you might, you know, produce some nice geckos.
for sure.
So I think that's great advice. All right, so last kind of major topic I want to focus on are your projects, right? We talked a little bit earlier about your red phantoms and how you're known for that. Are we just sticking with that and going, or, you know, if you don't mind me asking, if this is a well-kept secret, but do you have any favorite other projects or any future plans where you see yourself in the next few years that you can kind of give us a teaser to, or just talk about a little bit? Love to see where you're going.
Well, I do have a couple things that are kind of similar to Red Phantoms, I'll say, that I'm going to
Okay.
be working on in the future. But the Red Phantoms are going to be a major focus. And, you know, within Red Phantoms, you also have other things like Red Phantoms with white spots. I love the ones that have the strong pinstriping. And so those can kind of be
Mm-hmm.
broken up into their own little segments, or even like Red Phantom Lily Whites. So I'm going to continue on with that. But I also have some other Phantom stuff that I'm incorporating that I'm excited to work with. And so those are a little bit newer to me as well. But
Okay.
it's going to be a lot of Phantom
Yeah,
stuff going down the road.
I like that. It's very clean. I love the phantom look. I think a lot of people can agree. Anything red and lily white is
Oh, yeah.
gorgeous.
Love it.
I mean, if I could just pluck with unlimited funds one gecko out of somebody's pocket, it would be a not even a high coverage, but a medium coverage, bright red, lily white tricolor. To me,
Ooh,
they look like meatballs. You know,
yeah.
like
They're amazing.
yeah, that with good head structure. You know.
Yep.
Okay, if you had unlimited funds right now, right? I give you $1,000,000 to go and
Ooh.
start a new project. What would you pluck out right now out of the market?
Well, actually, there's something that I'm wanting to work with that isn't
Yep.
really secret, but it's hard to find. So I don't even know if I had $1,000,000. But orange phantoms, orange, like some of the ones I have are kind of orangey red, but like an
Yeah.
actual
Bright orange.
like scissors orange red or
Yep.
scissors orange. That's what I'd be going for. And those are hard to find. Like those are harder to find than like Axanthics or some of the higher end morphs, especially clean ones, no spots,
Mm-hmm.
just a nice uniform color. Um, that's something I would like to work with too. Kind of work them into my red stuff.
Yep. No, I think orange is an underrated color in both the crested gecko market as well as the gargoyle market. I've got a really nice orange pair that the first girl I bought, Hawaii. I'll show a picture of her right here, but she is a gorgeous six stripe orange, and I
Mm,
lucked into it. You know, I just took whatever was available. Yeah, I didn't know what, and I just go. I want something with high coverage, and so I lucked into that. But I think there's something about orange, and with gargoyles, what I've learned is that the color stacks upon itself. So it's hard to keep the orange because if you take orange and mix it with orange, sometimes you get red.
oh,
Um, And then if you take red and mix it with red, you get deeper red, And so I don't know how that works with crested geckos, if that's similar. I think yellow is a whole different thing, according to the people I've talked to that know way more than me. But what's that like with crested geckos in either your experience, or do you have any idea?
I don't have a lot of experience with yellow phantoms or orange, but I know for red,
Mm-hmm.
um, I have some that continually produce more like reddy orange animals, and then I have some
Mm-hmm.
that continually get, as the generations go on, get darker, darker, darker red, and so it kind of almost becomes brown after a while. I have some
Yep.
that are on that verge where they're almost so dark red that they're turning brown because of the phantom gene, I think, and so
Yep.
I wish it was gargoyle geckos with that bright, that deep red, beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
I wish I could just pluck that and put it on some crested geckos. Um, but yeah,
if
so it's
if
kind of
that was the
tough.
case, I agree. If that was the case, I'd probably be more into crested geckos because that's what sold me was some of these just absolute bright reds, bright oranges, and they
Yes.
stay fired up or fired down. You know, the I don't know. I'm biased. I think gargoyle geckos are better than crested geckos. You might disagree with me.
Well, to be honest with you, I think that I've seen some really like you were talking about David from Tiki's Geckos. Some of his red
Yeah.
stripe stuff, those reds. I won't lie. I like some of those more than some of my red phantom stuff. It's like those are amazing. I love them.
Yeah, yeah, he's killing it over there, and I've seen some other breeders that are absolutely killing it with some of the coverage. It's starting to leak onto the face, the eyebrows,
Really?
past lipstick. And that's different to me. That's markings versus the undertone. Like you've got the base color, and then you've got the markings.
Sure.
And so, like I have a completely red gecko. I mean, when she is fired up, she's completely red. When she's fired down, she's purple with red stripes. Right,
Cool.
and so really cool. Eve, I'll put a picture of her here again for everybody. But that's different than just ridiculous markings all over the head, right?
Yeah.
Phil Trimper, I just saw a picture on his Instagram that I'll have to send you. It is drool worthy of what he's producing. But yeah, I mean that's the cool thing. They're both so similar. Obviously, there's nuances, but there's room on our racks, hopefully, for both in the future.
Yeah. And that would
Right?
be the dream, wouldn't it? Have huge collection of gargoyles and crested geckos. Just
Yep.
both. They're amazing.
Yeah. It'd be amazing, especially if my wife will stay with me at that point.
Yeah.
So,
No more geckos.
no, well, she just said if I want a really easy divorce, just bring home a snake.
Oh yeah.
It would be cheaper. Yeah, no, snakes draw the line. Absolutely not a chance.
You
Don't even joke about it. She has nightmares about it. She'll wake up. Did you buy a snake? No, I didn't buy a snake. I swear. You
really?
know. Oh yeah, yeah. And I don't personally mind snakes. I
Yeah.
will hold them. I think they're cool. So no snake hate love or no snake hate here. Don't come after me in the comments.
Yeah, they're gonna cancel you
Love
for
them.
this.
Oh, I know. Seriously, they're gonna send me letters. But what are you gonna do?
Yeah.
Yeah. So the snake thing gets me. But very cool. All right. So we've talked about kind of where you would like to go, where you possibly are going with some of your stuff. I'm really interested to see. Maybe I'll have to get some babies from you. Um, we've already talked about the market, kind of where we can kind of guess where it is. But, where do you see your channel going? Is it just more of the same, or do you have any other kind of fun things that you're hoping to incorporate?
Yeah, well, I think there is eventually a limited
Mm-hmm.
amount of crested gecko only content I can make. And I'd kind of advocate for anyone who's interested in creating a channel to stick with one thing for a certain while until you feel like you've
Mm-hmm.
kind of hit your max. And I would kind of picture it like this, like a V, where you're starting with one thing and you're getting more broad over time. So
Yep.
it would kind of make sense for me to eventually maybe do a little bit more of other New Caledonian stuff, like
Yeah.
Leachianus. I had a Leachianus at one point, loved it, but I sold it to focus on the cresteds.
Yep.
But I'd maybe like to get one of those. I've never had a Chihuahua. I'd like one of those. Gargoyles, obviously. Love a good
Yeah.
red. Um, and so maybe one day in my future, I'll be doing something like that. That'd be the ultimate goal, I guess. But
That'd be awesome. Yeah, no, I think it's great. I'm 100%, I do want to expand to all the other new Cal stuff eventually one day. And I think we all have very similar stories where if we do niche down, we all had it in the very beginning. It's almost like Pokemon, right? We
yeah,
got to catch them all, but then you realize, wait, I can put some away and focus on these to train, right?
right. Yeah.
And then you can go and do another storyline with new Pokemon. But I don't know. I was a complete Pokemon geek back in the day. I think
Oh, yeah.
most of the people can relate to that because we like collecting animals,
Yeah. And
right? And they're just digital pocket animals.
that's so hard too, because like I love so many different, especially the new Caledonian geckos. I really wish I could
Yeah.
just have different projects with all of them. But I also believe that if you want to succeed in any of them, you gotta focus for a while at least.
And honestly, if I had my choice before I kind of even dove into this, Chewies spoke to me. They
Really?
really did. Some of those white collars, and yeah, I watched. I think it was one of Dave Kaufman's videos talking
Mm.
to. I I can never say the name correctly. Geckonidays? Is that how? Do you know who I'm talking about?
Yeah, I know who you're talking about, but I can't
Yeah,
say it
did I say
either.
that correctly? Yeah, no.
Gekana
So
days.
anyway, some gorgeous crested geckos and amazing chewies, and but and he's actually got some reasonable price ones. But with those white collars, I mean, you're talking some serious money. Like
Yeah.
you go to Chihuahua Chamber and stuff like that. It's like, oh, $6,000.
Oh, damn. I didn't even know that.
Right. Oh, some do. Yeah. I mean,
Really?
because my theory is if I'm going to stay small, I can never have a collection of 100, 200 geckos. I say that now, but I want to produce the best I can afford. And so that always means buying the best that I can afford. I'd rather buy less and have better quality, if that makes sense.
That's
Um,
perfect. Yeah, that's really the way
so
to do it. But yeah, I've seen some Chihuahuas. I've seen some of the ones that are more like reddy pink or
yeah.
kind of got that red coloration. Not quite, but I've seen some of those and I really like those too.
Yeah, it's too bad the mainlands don't get enough attention. I know everybody focuses on the Pine Islands, but Jekko's Geckos sold me back in the day a really gorgeous one of his red line
Hmm.
mainlands, and they're reasonable. They're like $300-$400 even back a
Oh,
few years ago.
that's not much at all.
Um, no, and actually, I mean, so you get all the coolness of a Chewy, but they just don't have the resale value, at least back then. Hopefully that picks up. And they obviously don't have the white collar, but yeah, some of those are really gorgeous. I think if somebody took that and really went with some of the colors, that could be a nice niche.
Yeah, and that's
So,
kind of unfortunate too that they don't have a larger market. I don't. Have you sold any gargoyles yet, or are you still in the very beginning?
so I'm in the beginning. I haven't sold any of these babies. Now, not to go too far down my story, but like, again, I always wanted to buy the best I could. And if there was a gecko that I looked at as it started to grow, because I always go and buy smaller babies. If I looked at him like it's not progressing the way I really want it to, I would put it up for sale and try to
Mm,
make more money knowing that it's older and not gouge people, but just, you know,
for
if I
sure.
bought it for $400, I'd sell it for $500. And so then I'd make a little more money and I'd buy a gecko, save up, a Christmas gift or a birthday gift worth of money, bonus for Christmas, at work.
Nice.
And that was my free money that I was allowed to kind of throw into the geckos. Or I literally went and sold all my dumbbells that I definitely, have huge ones because I don't use them. And I was like, I sold those and invested them. But so I've sold quite a few on Morph Market, but not of my own production. My best thing and what got me some of my best geckos was actually, and I haven't told many people this, I bought some amazing geckos that did turn out way better than I could have ever hoped. But I had some people reach out to me and they said, "Hey, I saw your gecko on Instagram or I saw it on Facebook. You selling?" And I told him no. I go, no, that's one of my best males. Are you kidding me? Forget
Right.
that. And they're like, okay, well, if you ever change your mind, let me know. And they were very nice and everything. And then I thought about it. Well, it can't hurt that. How much were you offering? Right?
Yeah.
And they're like, well, throw me a number. No, you throw me a number. No, you throw me a number. And we go back.
Yeah.
Okay, fine. I'm going to throw out some number that I will say yes to. I'll throw out a number that I'll say yes to. And I didn't want to be ridiculous. I looked at market value. And I did. And they said yes. And I'm like,
Oh,
holy shit. Okay, cool. And then I was like, all right, I've got X amount of money now. And my wife's like, we're going on a vacation. I go, no. This is going back in the geckos. And so I bought my really high-end stuff with that money. And
nice.
I couldn't have done it without those people. So if you're one of those people that bought one of my geckos and you know who you are, thank you. You're amazing. Hopefully you're enjoying them as much as I would have. But yeah, so that was my little story of my selling. Sorry, that was a tangent.
No, that
what
was
your
good.
point with me? So
I was just going to ask you, did you find it difficult? But obviously not really.
No. I mean, I'm finding okay. On the other end of the spectrum, I've got a male that I bred this year, was probably my best producing male. Granted, it's his first year, but he got the job done, and she's pumping out eggs more consistently than anybody else. But it's not the direction I want to go, you know? And so I put him on Morph Market. I put him on, all the other Facebook, Instagram, social media sites. I literally have not gotten a single hit on him. And I thought maybe, okay, I overpriced him. I asked a bunch of people, drop the price, still no hits. I just have him off. I'll keep him at this point.
Sure.
But yeah, so I found that was hard because what I've seen is, at least with gargoyles, the $2,000, $3,000, $4,000 geckos are selling.
Really?
I've seen those sell, at least if you look at Morph Market, because actually watching your video, I got that idea. I'm like, okay, what is the market doing? Let's look at the data. And then I'm also looking to see what else sold, and it's all the $200, $300 geckos. But that $500 to $1,000, they're sitting. Some nice geckos, some stuff I wish I had $1,000 to spend on.
Sure.
So I don't know if you see that with cresteds.
Yeah, I think the range is a little bit different. So like you would say 500 to 1,000 is for Gargs where it's kind of tough.
I'd say up to 2,000.
2,000.
I'd say it's really rough around 500 to 2,000 right now.
And for cresteds, if I had to say, I would say anything like maybe 100 to, let's say 5 is where the majority of geckos fall. So I think you have the most competition in a way there, and so that probably makes it a lot more difficult as well. And that's kind of always been the case, even pre-COVID, or I don't. That's a bad word on YouTube.
You could say it.
Pre-2020, that was even hard then too to sell animals in that range, just because it's kind of mid-range where a lot of them fall, and it's almost easier to sell those higher end, like you said, with the Gargs, to sell those. So that's interesting.
It's very interesting. I think also, one thing I've noticed is that even stuff that I'm like, is it over $2,000? Like, really? Maybe it's because of a name or a bloodline. I get the bloodlines more than anything. But I think that when you price certain things higher, people think it's valued more.
Oh,
so they're willing to spend money on that.
Oh,
no. You want to go down that rabbit hole?
That's a bad one. Funny story about that.
Okay.
Literally, this isn't bad. Literally yesterday, I had someone inquire about a gecko. They had purchased a male for me before, and they were looking for a female. And so I didn't really have a good female on my site, but I always am willing to look through stuff I'm holding back because I hold a lot of females back. And so they told me kind of what they were looking for, price range. And I said, okay, well, I think this one would be nice for your female or for your male that you bought for me, but it's less than what you said your price range was. They said, like, let's just say it was $500, and I showed them one that was $300.
Yeah.
And so I was like, okay, this would be nice. It's cheaper than what you were hoping for, so that would be good. And it really was something nice. And they responded to me something along the lines of, I want something more expensive. And I was like, well, that doesn't really mean it might be nicer. I thought this one was nice and it was less, but they were
Right.
newer, and I think they still correlated, like you said, price to quality. And I don't think it.
No, it doesn't always, but I fall into that trap sometimes, especially when I'm at shows more than anything,
Mm-hmm.
right? Online, I can use my rational brain and go, okay, think about it for a few days. But sometimes those quick decisions, you look at, okay, my price range, let's say it is $1,000 to buy a new Gargoyle, I know I want to get one. I have an idea. I've looked at Morph Market before I go. If someone shows me a gecko that's $500 and it's sort of what I was looking for, hopefully I'm smart enough to buy that. But I also know deep down, I'm like, well, if this is what I can get for $500 here, what can I get for $1,000?
Uh-oh.
Right? And
Yeah.
if I only want to buy one gecko, and maybe you could miss out on it, right?
Sure.
And so it's a mental. I mean, there's psychology with this, right? I could go into that, and I won't. But it's perceived value versus true value.
Right.
Even some of the deals that I've gotten. I have a male up here that it was not cheap. Okay, I'm not saying it was cheap by any means. I don't think it was, but to me, I think this breeder was just very, very good to me. And when she told me the price, I'm like, there's no way I'm going to be able to afford this. But okay, shoot me one. And when she told me a price that I was happy about it because it was on the upper end of my budget. But psychologically, like everybody's like, there's no way you only spent that much money on it.
Yeah.
And so you get what I'm trying to say? Like it's worth more, but I spent less, but I'm happy because my budget was higher.
Right.
It was right where the bottom. I don't know. So the psychology of it.
Yeah.
Everybody wants a deal.
Yeah. Everyone wants
Yeah.
value, but it's
that correlation. You want a deal, but you want value. If you can get both together and feel that way as a buyer, man, that's the sweet spot.
Yeah. It's right? That's one of the things I've repeated a lot over time is like price and value are not always. Because
it's nice when it feels they're the same, but it doesn't happen very often.
Yeah. Like if I price my red phantoms at $3,000, let's say, that doesn't make them that valuable. But would someone buy them?
Unless someone buys them.
Yeah.
Well, maybe. And this is the other thing too. A lot of people. So I just, when this goes out, it'll be a week from my last video where I talked with Dakota from Dakota Blue Exotics, right?
Yeah.
And so one thing that we brought up in that conversation was that why he got into YouTube initially was he wanted brand recognition so that people actually would buy his animals. And there's something to be said about that, right? I mean, I remember I've talked to Jake from Red Rack a few times. I haven't bought anything from him, but I was close to buying and looking at his stuff. He just didn't have it at the right time. And why would I buy it from him over all the other amazing gargoyle breeders? Why? Because I felt like I could trust him. He was on YouTube.
Yeah.
Right?
That's 100% a real thing. People will message me on Morph Market. Hey, saw your video, or see your YouTube channel and I like it, and I'm interested in this. And that wasn't my initial intention with making my channel, but it's been a nice side benefit that I didn't even think of. So
yeah, just another benefit. But what's cool is I think a lot of the people who are on YouTube, kind of like Spider-Man says, with great power comes great responsibility, right? So not to screw over people and give them a fair price and treat them well, just like you're any other business. Otherwise, you're going to get a reputation. So I think everybody so far has been doing a great job with that.
Yeah.
Very cool. Well, hey, I've been having a blast. This is just so much fun chatting with you. I know that we've talked a lot about different topics about YouTube and geckos, and I'm going to have to get you a gargoyle, one of these days. So here, if you don't know, my third video that I posted a few weeks back, we're doing a giveaway. As soon as we hit 500 subscribers, all you got to do.
Boost you up.
There you go. So please, no, honestly, no. please, all people, and this is, if this is still going on, if I have not hit 500 subscribers, I just got to put a little plug in here. Go back to that third video with Firehouse Geckos, and what you got to do is share the video. Then you've got to go and tag both me and Firehouse Geckos in whatever post. So subscribe, share the video, and remember to tag both of us. But you could do it too. Enter. I'd love to give away my gecko to you. Darren's giving away a gecko. That's 2 different chances. So
nice. That's awesome.
And if you don't win, I'll still try to hook you up with one.
Yeah, gotta get you some cresceds too eventually. One day.
There we go. I think that's a trade made in heaven. But very cool. Well, I really appreciate your time. Thank you so much for coming on. It was an absolute pleasure chatting with you just when I was getting started with some tips and tricks. You were so nice to talk about things that I could do to get started, and that meant the world to me. And it means even more to me that you're on this small little channel right now, just starting out. But I'll always talk geckos with you. You've been an absolute blast. So thank you.
I appreciate it, and thank you for having me. I'm down to talk geckos, YouTube, anything, anytime. I love it. Thanks.
Very cool. Not that you probably need this, but just to help sign us off, where can people go if they want to find you or your geckos? What's the best places to reach you?
Best place would be probably Instagram. You can find me at Sostic Reptiles. On Facebook too, at Sostic Reptiles.
Awesome. Very cool. Well, definitely go check them out on Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, and you have a second channel too, don't you?
Sostic 2. Yes, you're right.
Sostic 2. Yeah, go check out Sostic 2 as well. So, yeah, absolute pleasure to have you on. Thank you so much, and you have a wonderful rest of your night. Have a good one.
You too. Thank you.
Hey, if you've enjoyed this video and want to encourage me to make more Gargoyle Gecko content, do me a favor. Hit that subscribe button, share this with a friend, and maybe check out one of the videos right over there. I'll see you next time on GeckoCove.